One day someone sat down in the writer's room and thought to themselves, what if I made a movie entirely over Zoom? And that person is the bane of my f***ing existence.
Oh, come on, Ethan. These movies aren't too bad. You know, me and you, we used to watch these movies all the time. I actually remember there was a specific period of time in like 2020 during lockdown where you and I just went through and watched a bunch of these movies.
Oh no, that was fun. But for this video though, I had to sit and watch hours and hours and hours of these movies. And despite what you would think based on the shining reviews of these movies, they are actually very grueling to sit through. It makes me question why they even decided to start this genre.
I mean, the lack of budget and the amount of time that these movies take to produce is probably a big part of it. Plus, at the time that these movies first came to fruition, the gimmick of something scary happening over new technology was novel and fun, but now it's just getting old really fast.
Guys, that's what they're trading.
Trade what?
All those videos.
We have to do something, and we have to do it now.
Who's that?
Touchdown! Touchdown! Kiss my ass, Briggs.
It's what everyone's been asking for, a movie that takes place completely over computer screen. We get to see an entire story unfold over Facebook Messenger. Yay! All acting and reactions are done through Skype or a FaceTime call, which no one bothers to close their laptop ever or turn off their webcams. We spent 13 hours of our lives watching all of these movies, and now you have to sit here and listen to us talk about the reasons we think some are really, really good and some are really, really bad. Don't get me wrong, I love an experimental format for a movie. One of my favorite horror genres is found footage, which is kind of where the screen life genre actually spawned from.
When you think about it, screen life is kind of a subgenre of found footage, but the footage that was found just happens to be on a computer screen. But then, why are there such varying results in quality? Found footage is fun and creative and scary, and screen life is boring and cringe and painfully unscary.
Emma, turn the filters off. Come on.
I think there's a couple of things they seem to really get wrong in this genre. Firstly, I'm not sure why every movie in this genre is a horror, but even further than that, I'm not sure why every movie is specifically a paranormal horror. Did you hear that?
What? No, I didn't hear anything. You must be going crazy.
Oh, I'm sorry. That was just my 1 hour of silence randomly interrupted by horror noises. That's my bad. I'm so sorry. I forgot I had that on. Oh my god.
Wait. Ethan, what's behind you?
Practically half the movies on this list are paranormal horror, and I may be biased as I usually don't find paranormal horror to be scary in general, but I don't know, especially when it's paranormal through Skype, something just doesn't quite hit the spot.
It's actually where this genre started. A lot of people credit the first Unfriended as the first screen life movie.
Which we'll get to.
It was actually far from it though. It came out in 2015 and the first screen life movie came out in 2002, which is pretty crazy considering this is before video chatting was even widely a thing. The Collingswood Story is a movie that takes place and surrounds our main characters Rebecca and Johnny's laptops. Johnny seems to have gifted Rebecca something called a deco phone, which seems to just be some kind of software that turns your landline into a webcam. To be entirely honest with you, I was literally a fetus when this movie came out, so I don't quite understand the technology and it doesn't really play like a big enough role in the movie for me to give a f***. I'm sure the 90s babies can tell me everything about it though.
I mean, what do you expect from us? What are we, some kind of video essay channel that's supposed to research shit? Like, come on.
What do you want from me? I just work here. I don't know how I got here.
Rebecca and Johnny have just recently become a long-distance couple, with Rebecca moving to Collingswood, New Jersey for school. It's Rebecca's birthday, and since she insisted on not having Johnny down to Collingswood so she could focus on studying, he decides to make a fun night for her virtually, ordering webcam services for her, including a random guy to sing to her, a shirtless man dancing for her, if that's what you can call it. I guess this is what they did before they had Fiverr to hire random people to do funny things for you. They have a good time calling each other back in between each one of these funny things that he set up for her. At some point when they become bored of this, they decide to call a webcam medium named Vera that Johnny was recommended to by a friend.
And she answers the call as you would expect, obviously, any webcam medium would, you know, the creepy music, silhouette, and a pre-recorded disclaimer that this is all for entertainment purposes only. Johnny decides to have a session. The medium, Vera, starts mentioning Collingwood and a secret cult that murdered 9 girls, taking out their eyes and cutting a Joker-type smile on their face. The leader of the cult, Alan Tashi's house, was raided by the people of the town. He was nowhere to be found, but they did find a little red toy shaker. Vera urges Johnny to tell Rebecca to have another session with her, free of charge, because she needs to tell this to Rebecca and warn her, which, you know, is very generous for a medium, of course. Rebecca is a bit of a skeptic though, and she doesn't really want to talk to Vera anymore.
Johnny, on the other hand, is what some might call a little bit and is starting to feel a little scared.
I love your note of show clip of Johnny looking submissive and scared.
Well, yeah, I had to remind myself, you know. He decides to do some of his own research, and I distracted myself. Sorry, I was too busy thinking about Johnny being submissive and scared.
It's what I'm always thinking about, you know.
Johnny decides to do some of his own research when him and Rebecca get off call, and he actually ends up finding some pretty scary stuff. The house Rebecca is living in had a murder in it where a judge drowned his children, then murdered his wife and himself. When looking at crime scene photos, Johnny sees a little red toy shaker in the bathtub. Realizing that this murder may be connected to the cult that Vera was talking about, he calls Rebecca and tells her he feels like something more is going on here.
They spend a good portion of the movie wrestling with the idea that this could be all fake or it could be real in typical horror movie fashion. Without getting into all of the details, the climax is that Rebecca is going to search the attic of the house as she finds out that they used to do some culty rituals up there. All the while, she's staying on call with Johnny using a telephone or Ethernet or some kind of cable that she brought so that she could bring her laptop around with her. Johnny watches and warns that she should stop snooping around. Vera also interjects at one point, calling her and telling her to leave the attic immediately, but this time with a spooky white eye.
Ooh,
What could that mean?
scary.
We see a creepy man that we can only assume is the cult leader appear behind Rebecca and Johnny's screens as they go black. When they flicker back on, we see Johnny, presumably dead, with his eyes taken out and a Joker smile cut onto his face, whilst Rebecca smiles.
I have to say, for the first movie in this genre, it's one of the better ones. You would expect it to be super gimmicky and, you know, acknowledge the fact that it's all taking place over a screen a lot, but it isn't really the main focus of it. It also does have a genuine story outside of being a screen life movie. To be honest, the story honestly reminded me a lot of a Supernatural episode, with the way they go about exploring the lore of the cult and researching, which all starts to make sense when you realize the guy that made this also made Dante's Cove.
What's Dante's Cove?
Dante's Cove is basically a gay version of Supernatural that aired between 2004 and 2007 that is borderline softcore porn, not even softcore to be honest. The fact that Supernatural started the year after this came out honestly makes me think that Supernatural saw Dante's Cove and copied it one for one and made it slightly less gay, still keeping it gay enough to keep viewers engaged, and released it.
Okay, it seems like there's a lot to like unpack here. I'm not even gonna try and touch it.
But what about...
No, it's okay, Ethan, babes. It's okay, thank you. Why don't you tell us what you're trying to say about the Collingswood story, remember? With the video that we're recording?
Okay, fine, whatever, I'll talk about what the video is about. All this to say, the way they went about exploring the lore and the story behind the cult is really interesting, and it feels like it could exist outside of a screen life movie, which I think is one of the biggest flaws in this genre. A lot of the time it feels like they go into writing these movies with a gimmick, but not a concept, whereas this seems like they went in with a concept and then decided to tell it through a gimmick, which from what I can tell seems to actually be the case. It seems like the creator wanted to make a film but didn't have a big studio budget, so it seems like he went in with a passion and no budget, whereas most of the movies on this list go in with studios that have a big budget but don't want to spend it and don't have all that much passion, and they just want to make money off of it in the box office.
Something I will also say about this movie, which seems to be quite common in this genre, is that there's a comfortability around new technology that just makes them not scary anymore. Some of the scariest concepts that a lot of horror directors take advantage of is the unknown and isolation. With new technology, it's almost the exact opposite of that. Instead of having the unknown around us, we have unlimited information at our fingertips.
And instead of isolation, it's the ability to connect with thousands upon thousands of people at any given moment. In old horror movies, it was a cliche that the big bad would cut the phone line, severing the main character's connection to the outside world, which made it scary. However, now when the big bad is literally communicating to you through your laptop and modern technology, they would have to cut off your Wi-Fi, your data, your cell service. There's just too much. That's also the reason we see a lot of modern horror movies just have the main characters lose their phones outright at the start of the movie. It creates too much of a safe feeling to have it, which is probably why A Collingswood Story also tends to be able to pull off the genre a little better. This is right when video chatting started to become a thing. And even though it wasn't through Wi-Fi, it was through a phone line. So there's still only one thing tethering you to the outside world.
Yeah, and they really took advantage of that in this movie. Like when Rebecca is going into the attic, she says, "We might disconnect. I'm not sure how far this line goes." And while it never happens in the movie, just the idea that it's truly her one point of connection is scary. When the movie was in production, it wasn't even all that common to have a cell phone. I'm not saying cell phone, I'm British, mate.
What the do you call it in British land?
Smartphone.
Posh ass, what the hell?
Well, I'm not posh.
A smartphone, okay.
I'm gonna kill myself. Okay. When this movie was in production, it wasn't even all that common to have a smartphone, and we never see our characters with one, so it's safe to assume that they just didn't have one. And while we do spend a good portion of the movie with them on video chat, there's also points in the movie where Rebecca is out looking for more information on the cult, and Jimmy is Jimmy? Who the fuck is Jimmy?
Jimmy Mr. Beast?
Jimmy Beast?
Jesus Christ, I hate that both of us said that.
The Mr. Beast screen life horror movie?
No, that's a horror movie. That's actually terrifying.
That's what I want to see. And Johnny is home alone with no way of contacting her, just slowly watching the video emails she sends from her camcorder.
The other good thing that they did was making the only characters aware of the situation really far from each other. Johnny is an 8-hour drive away from Rebecca, which they draw attention to earlier in the movie with the whole, long distance I miss you thing. And Vera, being an already untrustable character, is also a couple states away. This puts the characters in that isolation feeling. They also have to resort to more physical things when it comes to finding information, like reading books like they did in the olden days. Nerds.
I've never read a book in my life.
I don't even know how to read. They were able to find some information online, but really not a lot. It makes the unknown factor a little bit more prominent, like when you actually have to physically find the information instead of just being able to Google it.
They also do this by never actually showing an outright threat until the end of the movie. It seems to be a trend with screen life movies to also kill off characters one by one slowly, and whilst this can be a good tactic, in Saw for example, where they slowly die off, making each character more and more scared as they realize that they're next. With these movies though, it just reveals whatever the big bad is too early in the movie, most of the time outright showing us the ghost. In the Collingswood story, we can't actually be sure that it's real until the end of the movie. For some reason, when it comes to screen life movies, they take all of the other good writing techniques and just throw them to the door for the gimmick. But the Collingswood story, even though when compared to other movies generally falls flat, when compared to other screen life movies, it does one of the better jobs.
Not the absolute best though, we'll get to that later. And all I'll say is that movie we came to the conclusion of being the best in the genre is the last thing I expected it to be. For now though, let's talk about where it all went wrong in this genre after the Collingswood story. Unfriended. The first one, not the one where all the memes are from. Okay, the one where one of the memes is from, but not any of the other memes that you're probably thinking about. This movie takes place in the beautiful year of 2015. Snapchat had just released the dog filter, selfie sticks were everywhere, and everyone would hear their hotline bling on their new Apple Watch while listening to Uptown Funk riding their hoverboards. I'm pretty sure I just had a brain aneurysm.
I actually never want you to speak again.
I can't believe I said all that. That was, wow. Also, just a couple years after FaceTime came out, so Skype was still hanging on by just a thread, which is where our story takes place. After being shown a live leak video of a girl unaliving herself, followed by a video titled Laura Barnes Yourself.
I can't believe that they stole my video title.
Yeah, what the hell? That's what we were gonna title this one. So oversaturated these days, I can't.
The yourself genre is just getting too much now. I can't handle it.
We're introduced to our characters, Blair and Mitch, who are a couple and are engaging in some cyber copulation, when suddenly their friends join their call. Their friends start making fun of them for being in their chonies.
Someone's in their chonies!
At this point, they realize that there's a user in the call that they don't know, that doesn't have a camera or a profile picture. Even the resident computer guy, aka the chonies guy, can't figure out what this is and how to get rid of him from the call. So they chalk it up to being some kind of weird glitch within Skype. Shortly after though, both Mitch and Blair get a message from Laura Barnes, the one that's supposed to be dead.
But if she's dead, how is she messaging on Facebook?
It must be because the terms and conditions for Meta are binding in life and death. Thank you so much, Mark Zuckerberg.
Thank you, Daddy Zuck. Thank you.
I loved you in The Social Network. But Mitch, who, by the way, is also just a boyfriend, has a different idea.
I don't know why in the script it just says right reasons later. So you're gonna have to take our word for it that he's a boyfriend. I don't remember why I wrote that, but I stay true to my opinion. He's a boyfriend for whatever those reasons are.
He finds an article about the dead contacting the living through social media. He thinks that this could be her spirit or her soul talking to them.
Right, and the obvious choice for a spirit to contact the living is through Skype and Facebook.
Me personally, if I was a spirit, I would do iMessage games.
Imagine getting a text from Laura Barnes, but she's just asking to play cup pong. Honestly, we could get into the details about this movie and the rest of what happens, but it's essentially just 13 Reasons Why, but somehow worse.
I didn't think that was possible, to be honest.
Laura goes one by one, getting them to reveal their secrets about how they contributed to her and once they admit what they've done, she kills them in a supernatural way. Ooh. There's only a few things worth mentioning about this movie because, to be honest, it was one of the worst movies we had to watch for this video, despite it being one of the first in the genre.
Apparently the scariest thing that can happen online is a ghost haunting you. I think the first Unfriended and many movies in this genre, they tend to miss the mark in terms of being actually scary. I mean, sure, there are horrific things in Unfriended, like bringing up Amanda Todd, who is a real person who actually unalived herself, and then referencing it in a comedic way is... yeah, that's really scary. Well done. I mean, there are so many scary things that can happen when it comes to technology. Stalkers, hackers, your chonies being leaked. I don't get why the first thing that these films go to is ghosts.
Right, and I don't know if this is just because when we were growing up, there were things like YouTube and social media already, but something about seeing a ghost on a screen feels so fake, as it's what we see on social media every day. People are always posting fake ghost videos and claiming it to be real, so it's almost kind of like desensitization to the topic being presented that way. It also just feels like so out of the realm of possibility. Like, people claim to have ghost interactions all the time, and I don't know if they're real or not, but I'll tell you what, if someone told me they had a ghost experience that happened to them on Skype, I would just flat out not believe it.
The only part of the movie that felt even remotely scary was the intro and seeing the Live Leak logo. I was pretty amazed when they used a real website name. They apparently also actually uploaded that video to Live Leak and YouTube, which got obviously removed from YouTube for violence and has since been taken down from Live Leak. But it was an attempt at viral marketing. The thing is, movies in the screen life genre are for a younger audience generally, and by default, they kind of have to be. I mean, you've seen how parents look at phones and computers. How are they going to watch a whole movie like that?
The problem with it being for a younger audience is the audience knows the internet. it's really hard to make it not feel cheesy or off. There are multiple times throughout watching these movies that they added sound effects and apps that don't have any, or used a different sound effect for creative or copyright reasons, and then you're like, what the f? That's not the sound that Facebook Messenger makes, or YouTube, or whatever the hell. Or some included YouTube videos that didn't look like actual YouTube videos, things that felt overproduced or underproduced. There's just so much that takes you out of it.
And there's no movie that is more guilty of this than Missing. That's not to say that Missing isn't good, it's actually one of the better ones, but really everything just starts going up after the first Unfriended. It's not that difficult. Missing actually exists in the same universe as the movie Searching, which is also one of the better screen life films, but they're not connected to each other. Although they have very similar stories, one is about a dad searching for his daughter who disappeared using social media, and the other is about a daughter trying to find her missing mum using social media.
These are some of the only movies in the whole genre that have nothing to do with paranormal things. It's actually what makes these movies work for the most part. These are really close runner-ups to what I think is actually the best in the genre, especially Searching. It had me genuinely on the edge of my seat. I had originally seen it years ago when Kate and I went on our binge of all of these movies. Even on my second watch though, I was on the edge of my seat and it had me gagged at moments, even when I knew what was coming next.
This is also one of the only movies that we're not gonna spoil on the list, because not only is it worth the watch, but spoilers would kind of ruin the concept. Whereas the rest are questionable if they're worth the watch, and even if they are, spoilers don't really make much of a difference because you can already kind of guess the ending. We will, however, spoil Missing because it's kind of like the less favorite child of the two. What are you doing?
So I'm actually just in the middle of you doing that line. I started recording my dog because he's having a nightmare. So hold on, I'm just getting him on the mic real quick.
Oh, baby. Does he know about Unfriended?
He was thinking about Unfriended again. No! That's his worst nightmare. All right. Main characters, let's go. We got June, our main character, her mom, and her mom's boyfriend, Kevin. Kevin is a recent addition to the family and is currently in the process of trying to win June over in proper stepdad fashion.
I love your mom.
Not an easy feat, as June's father died of a brain tumor when she was a kid, and she is not happy about her mom being with a new man, so that's a rough one. Kevin and June's mom head off for a vacation to Colombia, leaving June home alone to throw a rager? See, this is what I'm talking about. Missing is like trying to be for Gen Z, but clearly written by people who are not Gen Z because they're using words like rager. Like, I have not heard anyone say that word ever. This movie has so many moments like that that just feel unnatural and out of place, and that's truly my biggest gripe with this movie. More on that later though. Let's get through the actual movie first.
So after the big rager that June throws, she goes to the airport to pick up her mum and Kevin, but they never show up, and June starts getting worried, like as you would, and calls the hotel that they were staying at to ask if they were seen leaving. Of course, she doesn't speak Spanish, which means we have to sit through this really awesome Google Translate scene. Listen, filmmakers, okay, take it from me, someone who's never made a film. Sometimes it's okay to leave things out, or maybe just write that the character speaks Spanish, because watching her try to understand Spanish and then horribly trying to pronounce what Google Translate tells her, it adds nothing to the story, and it's just like frustrating and cringy to watch. There are better ways to build tension. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk.
Well, thank you for saying all that, Kate. You know, as someone who has also never created a film, I couldn't agree with you more.
I think we might be the authority on this situation, being YouTubers.
As YouTubers that didn't even research half the for this video, I think we're qualified. So what she does learn from the hotel though is that they never checked out and they never claimed any of their luggage. The hotel does, however, have CCTV footage, but even with the help of June's mom's lawyer friend, they aren't allowed to give the footage to June without someone coming in person to collect it. And also, they're gonna erase the footage in 48 hours. Time crunch.
I'm telling you, to add tension to these movies, you really have to add some kind of physical distance, and that added time restraint is the best part.
This This is where the true main character of this story gets introduced. June has an idea to hire someone on TaskRabbit, a real gig site by the way, to go to the hotel for her. She hires this beautiful man named Javi. We all love Javi. When he comes on screen, we all clap our hands and go, yay, Javi, okay?
Do you need like 5 minutes alone with Javi?
Yes, please, yes, please, yes, please. This man is the saving grace to the movie. I am being so genuine when I say that. This movie would be nothing without him. I also really have to give props to this movie here for a couple reasons. First, I really love that they're using real sites. There's nothing that takes me out of a movie quicker than when they're using a clear ripoff of an actual site to avoid copyright or whatever. Like when a character opens Snapper Chatter or something, like that totally takes me out of it. Secondly, her having to come up with the idea of a gig worker here is actually a really fun solution to an already really interesting problem. Also, both the problem and the solution feel feasible, like something that could actually happen in real life.
This is one of the first movies where in the research for this video, I was actually taken aback by how creatively they use the screen life genre. They really did bring interesting things to it here. Also, this isn't unexpected of the creators because in Searching, they killed it with the emotional storytelling, but they show it again with this moment in this movie. It's so small, but there's a moment where June is looking for what gig workers to hire, and she sees one with good ratings that seems really trustworthy, but they're really pricey, and that's why she lands on Harvey, because she sorts by cheap and doesn't bother to see whether he has good reviews or not. This small moment is such good emotional storytelling. It gives us a glimpse into June's mindset here, which is the mindset a lot of people would have in this situation. She's worried, but there's a part of that invincibility complex everyone has here, still mixed in with a bit of denial. Nothing bad would happen to my mom. This is just a misunderstanding and she's going to be okay. So I'll get the cheap guy because it's not going to end up being that big a deal.
She could also just be cheap, but I guess we'll never know. Javi ends up not being able to get the footage for her, but he continues helping her. They go through a bunch of interesting problems, tracking down digital receipts and getting Javi to go around to different shops buying things until the transaction ID lines up with the one they got from Kevin's bank that they hacked into. They do some cool problems with the location tracker and some other things. I will really give it to this movie that they really use the screen life genre in an interesting way. It genuinely kept me engaged during the movie. They also hack into Kevin's email and find a bunch of dirt on him through online stalking, eventually finding out that Kevin is just one of his many aliases and he has a record of scamming women out of money. This leads to June and Javi thinking Kevin has kidnapped her mom, and so they work together solving more problems to track her down.
At some point, they hack into her mum's dating profile where she met Kevin, and they see that she actually knows that he has a bad past, and apparently she has a bad past that she's told him about too. Around the same time, June finds a video of her mum and Kevin both getting kidnapped, and at this point, she no longer feels sus of Kevin, you know, they've both been kidnapped. But then we get probably the... I'm not saying this.
You don't want to say gaggiest moment?
That's honestly horrible. I'm not a little twink like you.
I didn't know how else to describe it.
But then we get probably the cuttiest moment in the movie. June looks back on the photo that Kevin had sent from the plane of her mum. It turns out it's a live photo, and so she presses it and holy shit, that woman is not her mum.
I won't lie, this twist got me pretty good. Turns out Kevin hired a body double to act as her mother, and everything was fake. She never even left the city. Kevin gets found by police and shot, so we still don't know where June's mom is. After some digging in her mom's email, she finds that someone was threatening her about her past, and that then leads her to an email to Kevin about security cameras he bought for an abandoned house. June does more digging and finds a live feed of said security cameras and sees a wall that looks really familiar. It's her childhood home, and as it turns out, her dad, you know, the fucking dead one, he's number one alive and number two behind all of this. Now that should have been a gag at the end of the movie. Unfortunately, I already clocked that big twist maybe 20 minutes before it actually happened. But if I didn't, this would be crazy.
Oh yeah, sorry, I forgot that the expert movie reviewer, nothing gets past you.
Nothing gets past me. I know all the biggest twists in every movie. Everyone hates watching movies with me.
Actually, when I watched Titanic, I knew that thing was gonna sink. And so as it turns out, June's dad was actually a piece of shit, so her mum left him. changed her name, and ran away with June. He told her that he died from a brain tumor to protect her, and this was him trying to get his daughter back. He had been working with Kevin to get back closer with June. It ends with him having both of them kidnapped in the house. June's mum ends up slitting his throat and killing him like a little baddie. The problem is he leaves the room and locks them in before he bleeds out. Oh, and I forgot to mention her mum was shot, so she's also bleeding out, leaving the two of them in the room without phones and with no way out, until we get another pretty cool problem to solve. June, remembering that she left the camera live feed open on her computer at home, yells into the camera, "Hey Siri, would you mind calling for help please? That would actually be pretty sick, thanks." And then they both live and we get a happy ending.
This movie actually kept me awake and entertained, which is more than I can say for a lot of these movies we watched in preparation for this video. We didn't get into it, but there's also a whole B-plot in this movie around Javi, and this whole time he's got his own thing going on with his family. There's so much to the movie that honestly it's worth the watch, even if you've watched our analysis here. The thing I will say about this movie though is that it's kind of a cheat code in a way. We get to access a lot of different locations through the security cameras. The whole climax of the movie is almost just abandoning the screen life genre in general, but I'm glad that it did. The movies that were actually engaging enough had to break the genre a little bit to make it work. I don't think that's because a movie can't work in this kind of format, but honestly because a lot of the stories written in this genre aren't good enough to carry out with such a limited setting. You have to have a really good plot and character writing to get away with such a small setting. There's this movie called Malcolm and Marie, for example.
The whole movie takes place over one night, one conversation in one house with only two characters, but it works so well because the character writing and conflict is just that interesting and you want to see a real challenge of the format. I would suggest watching that. So if a story was written like that and adapted to be in the screen life format, I could 100% see it working, but unfortunately, even the movie we're going to be talking about next, that was the best in the genre according to us, wasn't strong enough to be so constricted in setting. Quick rundown of the ones that we didn't get to cover. Followed is a movie about a YouTuber trying to film in a haunted hotel. It felt like they really didn't know how to make it YouTuber feeling. It felt like people who don't watch YouTube and their interpretation of what a YouTube video would be. I will say that the commentary that the movie made on YouTubers like this was funny and it felt like valid criticism, but it was also another paranormal movie that just didn't feel satisfying. The Dan genuinely almost fell asleep during this movie. It's about a girl trying to track down a murder that she witnessed off of like a knockoff version of Omegle. It's a solid concept, but horrible execution. There's so much dead air, it's just boring. Post, another paranormal movie, felt like it was made by just a couple friends with access to Zoom and OBS. The actual behind the scenes of it had probably the most interesting production elements, but the story was bland and it was also just insanely boring.
The movie that knocked all of the other movies out of the park and had me most engaged and invested in the whole genre. I'm so sad and so embarrassed to say that the movie that is the best here is Unfriended Dark Web. Yes, the one where all the actual memes are from. I know that sounds crazy. It's possibly one of the most memed movies ever. It seems so unserious. It's known for horrible acting and widely frowned upon in the horror genre in general. It has just a barely passing score on Rotten Tomatoes, but please just hear us out.
In case you haven't seen Unfriended Dark Web, I highly recommend getting some good friends together and giving it a watch, or even just sitting down and watching it yourself. I'm telling you, it is worth the time that it takes. It's genuinely really fun. I hadn't seen this movie in so long and genuinely I was laughing so hard.
The second the movie started, it had a different vibe than all the rest. The cast was fun, had great energy, it had background music. It seems like a bare minimum in a movie to have background music, but I cannot stress enough how many of these movies were silent. I never knew I would miss background music so much. When watching this one for the video, it was one of the last ones because honestly, after the first Unfriended, I wanted to put it off for as long as I could. I straight up put on pajamas and got a comfy blanket in preparation to fall asleep because I fell asleep during 4 of these movies, and that is not a joke, and I had to rewatch the endings of those movies. And I was prepared for that with this one, but like 10 minutes in, I was sitting up, locked in, and having a good time. I cannot believe I am being an Unfriended stan right now, but honestly, it deserves it.
Okay, let's get into it. Main characters, Matthias, his girlfriend Amaya, and our supporting cast of friends, AJ, Damon, Lex, Serena, and Nari. Immediately, these characters have 10 times more personality than any character in a movie we've seen so far. We open with Matthias on video chat with Amaya, showing her a new program he made that instantly transcribes what he's saying into subtitles to help them with video chatting, because Amaya is deaf and reading lips can be hard over video chat. This, however, leads to a fight because Amaya would just prefer Matthias to learn sign language, which apparently he hasn't been doing the classes that he swore he'd do.
No, literally. And also, can I just say, like, it's said in the movie that he signed up for like sign language it said that she signed him up for sign language classes, so it was all prepared. He just had to go and he didn't go. So
yeah, and no, sorry, can I just say, like, if you've been together this long, you think you would have like made some effort to learn sign language. That is kind of insane.
After the argument, Amaya leaves the call and Matthias decides to go chill with the boys on Skype for a game night. Sadly, no chonies this time.
Choni!
But the characters' chemistry is so good. It genuinely feels like a call with friends, which, not to glaze the actors too much, but it's hard to accomplish this when you're not in the same room as the other actors, and it takes quite a bit of talent. Also, thank you for not stopping all audio the second Matthias tabs out of Skype. For some reason, every movie in this genre loves to cut out all audio the second a character tabs out, which makes it boring and unrealistic. I genuinely think it's because they don't think viewers would be able to focus on both the audio and the character Googling something or something at the same time. Again, the audience is younger, and these are people that are on call, Googling, and hanging out with their friends at the same time all the time. This felt like the first movie that wasn't dumbed down, which is crazy because it's definitely the dumbest.
It's revealed that the laptop Matthias is on is actually a stolen laptop he found at the cyber cafe. He's still logged into the person's Facebook and starts getting messages from someone called Nora C. Matthias starts realizing that he could be in trouble, so he shares his screen. Thank you, Lord. It's like they've never heard of screen sharing in this genre, and it pisses me off. And it could bring a tear to my eye seeing this movie utilize screen sharing, because it's so much more fun that everyone gets to see what's happening on the screen instead of just hearing everyone ask what's going on a million times over. Anyway, they end up coming across some snuff films on the laptop hard drive, and they all start getting really freaked out, you know, rightfully so. They find one in particular of someone sneaking into a young girl's bedroom and smiling at the camera before the video cuts off. Just as all of his friends are getting stressed out, Matthias gets a call from Nora C, saying that he will hurt Amaya if he calls the police, and that he knows that Matthias stole the computer. When Matthias gets back to his friends, they're all making plans on contacting the police and handing the laptop into the station. But now Matthias tells them to stop, and the whole thing was an ARG that was made by him, and he was just testing it out on everyone.
Nari still doesn't feel quite right, and she ends up looking up the address associated with the last video of the young girl, and she finds that it's a real video of a real missing 17-year-old girl. But Matthias still insists on the ARG story as he fears for Amaya's safety. He manages to convince Amaya to come see him, but is careful not to alert her about what's actually going on. Nora C ends up following her, and Matthias watches in fear. He tells Matthias that he'll follow Amaya to Matthias, and then he will exchange her for the laptop, and no one has to get hurt. We end up seeing the computer's connection to the dark web, and this ring of people called Sharons, which clicks in Matthias's head as Nora C's name backwards, linking him to all this. Matthias realizes that this girl in the video is truly in danger along with Amaya. So even if he gives the laptop back, ensuring Amaya's safety, this girl in the video would still be in danger.
He uses the laptop to go into Nora's crypto wallet and transfers all of the funds into his account, which causes him to call Matthias angry about the money. Matthias tells him, "You'll get the funds back when I have Amaya safe, and you can prove to me that the girl in the video will be returned to her family safely." Nora at this point unmasks himself for some reason and tells Matthias that he has no clue what he's getting himself into, and the money wasn't just him. And all of the Sharons will be after not just Matthias and Amaya now, but also him as well, as they would kill him when they found out that he lost the laptop. Meanwhile, Matthias's friends are discussing the ARG and trying to figure out how he pulled off everything.
They implement a pretty cool tactic here that really really did well with adding tension. Matthias wants to notify his friends about what's really going on, but if he alerts the Sharons or Nora that something could be wrong, Amaya might get hurt, so he waits until Amaya gets on the subway, knowing that Nora will follow her and they'll both lose data in a certain stretch of the subway. As soon as he sees Amaya's FaceTime turn off, he uses this time to tell his friends about what's going on, that all of this was in fact real, and Amaya and this girl in the video are really in danger, and they can't let on that they know when Nora and Amaya get back online.
This actually creates a really interesting concept for the viewers as we watch the group of friends try to act normal when they come back online. Not only does it cause tension, but also comedy, as it's really funny to watch them just try and play Cards Against Humanity, knowing some really sinister stuff is going down. However, it doesn't last long for the friend group as Sharon starts slowly catching on that Nora lost the laptop and the group of friends know what's going on, making them a threat and a target to the Sharon's group. At this point, we go into classic killing them off one by one type horror. However, this actually works in the case of this movie. Number one, we're already like a good amount into the movie, and the slow reveal of the Sharons being a whole group instead of just one guy, plus the fact that we still don't quite know what the Sharons do, keeps the notion of the unknown alive here. Number two, this isn't a paranormal movie, so there's no room for the characters to question if stuff is real or not. They just know it's real, which feels so much better story-wise. And number three, they kill them off in interesting and thematic ways.
It's true. I mean, Lex, the first death, is kind of basic. She just gets thrown off a roof, and we've all done that. But then there's AJ, who the Sharons compile clips of saying violent things and swatting him, playing a machine gun sound effect through his speakers when the police come in, causing them to shoot AJ. Serena is forced to choose between her fiance, Nari, being pushed into the tracks at the subway, or turning off her terminally ill mother's life support. When she's unable to choose, they kill them both, and then Serena. So we end up with just Matthias, Amaya, and Damon. Amaya arrives at her first stop and waits for the next train. Matthias tells her to stay put and he'll go to her, while Damon encourages him to leave. You see, Damon is kind of weird. He's, how do I say this? He's like,
What? Oh, come on, babe, just fucking say it, alright?
He's
Oh my god, okay. Damon is British, which means that he lives in London, far away from the rest of the characters and the Sharons. So Damon is feeling pretty safe. What's crazy is Ethan and I have been friends for like 6 years, and he still thinks like British people are just the funniest thing on the planet. Even though you're from Canada, which is basically like if England was cold and miserable and didn't have a cool accent like me.
Hey, bod, what's wrong with our accents? That was not even Canadian.
Anyway, with the confidence Damon has being far away from the danger, he starts remotely downloading everything from the stolen laptop to his hard drive and tells the Sharons that are watching that he's recording everything for the police and they're gonna get caught and shut down. From the laptop though, they show Damon a video of themselves photoshopping Matthias's face onto the person in the video of the girl's bedroom. We also see one of the Sharons enter Matthias's house and put said missing girl into Matthias's closet. They're clearly trying to frame him here. They force Matthias back into the call from his phone, and Damon tells him that the Sharons have planned everything from the start, including Matthias stealing the laptop from the cafe, and they're gonna frame him for everything. Damon's camera cuts off though, and when it comes back, we can see him being dragged back into frame by a noose. Clearly, he's not so alive anymore.
Not so alive anymore, huh? Kind of like your queen.
No one even likes the Queen, mate, honestly.
Just sick of you British people. Oh my god, I can't. And your blue passports.
That's the only good thing we've got is the blue passports.
We also see Sharon's writing a note into Damon's computer saying that him and his friends killed themselves out of guilt for the whole underground cult, pinning all of the Sharon's wrongdoings onto the friend group. Amaya then calls Matthias from a location he doesn't recognize. Matthias realizes that the Sharons hacked into his messages and told Amaya a different meeting spot. He tries to warn her, but the Sharons use the program he made earlier to tell her everything is okay and to go inside.
Which wouldn't have happened if he'd learned sign language.
I've been saying, the boyfriends in Unfriended suck.
This movie's deeper than you think. Then we get a video feed of Amaya entering the location and getting attacked by one of the Sharons. Matthias watches and cries. As you would. As you would. He gets mad at the Sharons watching him through the phone, asking why would they do this. They show him a clip of him earlier saying, after all, it's just a game, right? Implying that this is all just entertainment from them. We then see a poll appear on the screen asking what should happen to Matthias, if he should live or die. They obviously pick die, and we see Matthias get hit by a car. We then zoom out to see the audience has actually been watching from a Sharon's computer screen this entire time, and we see some of the Sharons unmasking themselves as the game concludes. Which, to be honest, like, you've done all this to like keep yourself anonymous, and then they're like, oh, I'm gonna take my mask off now on camera. Although one of them is a police officer, kind of implying that even if they did get a hold of the cops, there was at least one person working on the inside that would be working against them.
There's a couple reasons why this movie works so well and the others didn't. There's the little things like background music, Matthias sharing his screen to the whole group of friends so we get to see all their reactions, not just his. Some good concepts in terms of making tension, but what really works in this movie is that it didn't take itself seriously. The creators clearly learned from the first Unfriended that trying to make this in any kind of serious way just doesn't work. Instead, they leaned into the comedy of everything. Genuinely, this movie had me laughing my ass off. They deadass had a Vine boom sound effect at one point. They knew what they were doing. The thing is, with this genre, your audience, again, is young. Not only that, but this generation doesn't take anything seriously. This is the generation that when a world tragedy happens, you'll turn around to TikTok and see a funny edit made of said tragedy the same day. This movie came out when Gen Z was just growing up, and filmmakers then and even now really didn't understand how to connect with this generation. But Dark Web absolutely did, and big props to the fact that it's still funny to this day.
There's also something to be said about injecting comedy into horror. A lot of movies that are made to be comedies end up feeling cheesy. It's impossible not to when you know the movie you're watching is trying to make you laugh. When you go into a horror movie, you're not expecting it, so when it does make you laugh, it hits 10 times harder. Unfriended 1 and 2 are known for having the horrible acting, but I think people don't get that Unfriended Dark Web, they're so self-aware with it. All of the reactions and memes that came out of this is because the actors knew how silly it was. Say what you will about the acting, this is the only movie of the genre that has actors who are still booking gigs, with the exception of Missing and Searching, but their actors had gigs before these movies.
I really think they got the genre wrong when exploring this format of movie. The other movie that stuck out to me on this list was Spree. The only reason we didn't cover it is because it feels like even more of a cheat code to the format. It takes place over a guy's stream, making it technically take place all over a screen, but given that he's streaming on his phone, it feels closer to found footage rather than a screen life movie. But the reason that that movie works so well too is because it leans into the comedic side of the genre. I think it goes even further than screen life. Found footage, which again is where the genre spawned from, can absolutely work as a horror. Some of the best horror has come from found footage, but one of my favorite found footage movies is Creep. While still being a horror, it leans into the comedic side. It's very well regarded and very loved in the horror audience.
This format of movie, as in screen life movies, seems to be kind of dying out now. It really feels like a genre that existed for a short time and then disappeared. I mean, we've legitimately seen every movie in this genre, and as much as we've complained about how long that took, in comparison to other types of movies, it was a breeze. Like, if you were to even watch every found footage horror movie, that would take so long. This genre just kind of failed, and it's a shame given that it's such a great outlet for filmmakers that maybe don't have the budget. I think it just fell all too much into the wrong hands and became too gimmicky to be taken seriously. And then by the time it found its groove with movies such as Spree and Unfriended Dark Web, the idea was lost on people.
I also think the movies like Searching and Missing could be a good use of the genre, but it just hasn't been perfected quite yet. The creator of Unfriended has teased a third, but it's been like 7 years since they did that, so who knows if that will actually ever happen. I honestly really hope we do. Unfriended Dark Web shows the potential of the genre, and with the way the internet and technology is evolving, if they continue to be in touch with it, it could be really, really good. As long as they stay connected with the younger generation and stray away from taking themselves too seriously, it could really cement itself as a classic in the horror genre. But as far as...
Ethan? Ethan, are you there? Hello? Oh, we're just doing another bit, aren't we?